My journey is way more diverse. Bachelor's, European studies, some journalism courses in South Korea, marketing internship in like Indonesia, and now fashion design in Italy. I felt like I was all over the place. And of course, for employers, my CV didn't make any sense. I was like, okay, I need a full-time job. I experienced that UX UI design was not for me, but also not really in line with my natural talents. And then it was my brother who was like, Sophie, if you continue your life like this, you will never find a job. He set me up with a career coach. Once I started to apply for recruitment roles, I started landing offers.
Just going out and seeking a mentor sounds impossible unless you do what you did and go into Vogue with a balloon and just selling yourself, and that sounds terrifying. And then there's a whole world of LinkedIn as a new professional within the recruitment industry. I think it's important to touch base on your networking experience on LinkedIn.
Either people don't respond or they respond like, hey, what's the intention behind this message? Do you want information? I was like, no, I just want to learn.
I've noticed going into companies the mindset difference with someone who followed a traditional path and does everything correctly in the box versus someone like me who is really diverse.
And that means that you will fall, you will get rejected, that you will hear the feedback, hey, I actually don't think you should ever do that again. But that's okay. Like, just believe in yourself and believe in the fact that you will find your career path. What I would highly recommend to like younger generation or like people maybe listening to this podcast too is
so we will talk about your recent recruitment experience, but let's talk about the beginning, the story of Sophie. So could you talk us through, so you've done an internship in Indonesia in marketing and you understood what you liked or didn't like, but you also have a UX, UI and fashion background. So it'd be really interesting to understand your evolution from these two industries into recruitment.
Yes. Well, basically, I was in Indonesia doing the marketing internship. And then in my free time, I would go to a tailor, I would go to fabric markets. And I basically, by the end of my year in Indonesia, I saw this whole collection basically in my closet. And I just asked 4 or 5 friends, like, hey, shall we organize a fashion show? So they were my models, and we just organized this fashion show, which was basically one table in a restaurant. And I just invited like a bunch of friends, you know, like we were with 10, 11 people. It was really fun. It was just like an event, and we had music and we had dinner and we just talked about the clothes. And so that's where kind of my interest in fashion started, I would say. When I came back from Indonesia, I was like, okay, what's the next step? And I was like, okay, maybe design or fashion could be interesting. So then I found a fashion school in Florence.
Wow.
Yes, and they're basically offering like entry-level courses, so to say. It was officially a master's, and I saw this master entry-level design course in fashion. So I signed up, and then I just handed in my portfolio from Indonesia, which was just a bunch of like pictures from jumpsuits and dresses, and like it was really fun. And then I moved to Florence, and I started originally in another program, which was like product development. So learning the whole like product life cycle. And already like being in the course, I kind of like, well, I don't know if this is for me. So then I moved to design afterwards. So it was actually just by already in the first month where I had all of those courses in like product development. It was like, okay, again, it was too analytical, like too much numbers. So then I tried design, which was for a whole year, where we had to develop our own like clothing line. So I literally like learned how to draw from zero. I literally learned how to sew from zero. And then by being in the program, it was like, I felt like I was like working really hard, you know what I mean? While other like people in my program had already 3 or 4 years of like specific design experience, while my journey is way more diverse, like bachelor's, European studies, then did like some journalism courses in South Korea, then did my marketing internship in like Indonesia, and now fashion design in Italy. Like, wow, like I felt like I was all over the place. But again, by being in this 1-year program, I learned in that sense more about the design life cycle. But what happened was, by the end of the program, we had to deliver like our own collection, which I felt like was really hard for me because I didn't know how to sew, how to like draw. I was like spending hours in the library to come up with like a collection. But it just felt like I got nothing out of my hands. I felt like I was there for hours, but then the output was 0. And I ended up bringing my clothes to a tailor. So I was like, hey, can you actually make this for me? So by the end of the year, I had my final collection. But it was all, it didn't really felt like it came from me. It was all done by like external people. And so then I figured like, okay, fashion design is very specific. Like either as a kid, you were drawing already from like a young age, or you're just super, super talented and you can like reach the highest level that's possible within the fashion industry, which I felt like that was not me, you know? But what I did as a kid when I was young, I was like playing with kids. I was like always out like talking to like, you know, like kids, making friends and stuff. So also in Florence, in Indonesia, there was always one thing that came easy to me, and that's like connecting to like external parties to actually make clothes or like bring people together on this like fashion event, or pick the right people to be models, you know. So I felt like, okay, maybe I should like do something different. I was in Florence, ended the year in Italy, did the final project, so to say. And then I was like, okay, what am I gonna do now? So then I saw this TV show. So I was invited. I saw on Facebook, I saw this message about like, hey, are you a young designer? And do you wanna make your own collection? It was literally like this.
On Facebook?
On Facebook, yeah. And I was still in Florence. It's like, oh my God, this is cool. And it was posted by this Dutch channel, like like national TV channel. I was like, okay, cool. So I signed up. It was literally like one email with a motivation, like, hey, I'm Sophie. I've done this school in Italy. I like design. And then I got a phone call and was like, hey, we would like to invite you for, like a short interview. So we had the interview and I was like still literally on the phone, and I didn't know they were gonna call me. And so my mom happened, like we were literally shopping in Florence because my mom was over. Okay. And I was like doing the call like from this like clothing shop. I was like, okay, la 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 la. It was really fun. And then after like the 2 rounds, I got selected, basically. So then I moved back to Amsterdam, but because again, it was like perfect timing. It was like the end of the year in Florence, and I needed to make a next step. I wanted to stay in Italy, but because I wanted to work in fashion in Florence. But again, I figured by not knowing Italian and being very junior within the industry is something that's very hard to find, like a proper job that actually pays your rent. Because
especially the fashion industry over there.
Yes, I was living in my dream world when I was like a fashion student in Florence. Honestly, I was like a show pony. I just like to, dress up and. My mom told me, like, Sophie, there's more than fashion. I was like, what do you mean? What do you know?
Yeah.
So it was really, really kind of like I learned kind of along the way that, okay, I can't stay in Florence. So I moved back to Amsterdam, and then the show happened. And then the show was like a couple of episodes that we recorded. So we were with 4 or 5 young designers. And we were told in the beginning that this show is where we have to make our own clothing lines. But what it didn't tell us was that we were going to go to Myanmar to experience the real side of the fashion industry, the real face.
Oh.
So it was a surprise. So we were surprised by this whole, announcement. So we went to Myanmar, and we went inside tanneries, inside sweatshops. We went to the local villages where people live and sleep. We actually slept there for a night. So it was a whole experience where we really saw the real side of the fashion industry. And it was really, really painful to see sometimes, because like their working conditions, what they earn, etc. It's really, really difficult. For me, it was a wake-up call in that sense, like how the fashion industry really works. And then we came back to Amsterdam, and then we did the final show. And so the whole final collection was all made with sustainable fabrics. So then the whole message from the show was to show the real side of the fashion industry. Then the whole show was over. Then I was left with a message something for myself, where I was like, okay, what do I want to do with this experience? Is there something I can do right now to actually, step in and show something or do something for the better to improve the industry? So then I basically, learned more about Fashion for Good, which is an innovation platform for sustainable fashion. And they were searching for hosts. So they also have a museum where you also learn more about sustainable fashion. So I applied, I got the job, and then a lot of kids, high school kids. So I just guided, told them the story about sustainable fashion.
Did you tell them your own experience?
Yes, of course. And since it was broadcasted on national TV, a lot of those high school kids, they also, of course, recognized you, oh, hey, that's Sophie from Genijd in Dutch. Yeah. So it was actually making a lot of sense. And people, on one hand, I could help spreading the word about sustainable fashion, and then on the other hand, I had really fun educating the younger generation about how to be more conscious about your buying decisions. So I was really cool. It was really cool. Yeah. So I worked for 2 years something at Fashion for Good. This was part-time, and then in the meantime, I was always searching for something full-time. So it was COVID hit also in those 2 years. And then the museum, of course, had to close now and then. So
let a certain amount of people in as well.
Yes. So it was then everything changed. And I felt a bit stuck in the fashion industry, because I needed a full-time job. I needed to pay my own bills, because I was lucky my parents were still backing me up. But at one point, I have to grow up, and I wanted to be independent too. But so I was applying to a lot of jobs, but I was going everywhere. I was applying to marketing, PR, I was everywhere, and I felt really lost. I was going through this I could not find a full-time job for a long time, 2 years, honestly. Because I think on one hand, that was because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And of course, for employers, my CV didn't make any sense, because it was from A to B and then C to D. So it was a lot of everything, but also at the same time, nothing. And then I was in a field, in an industry that was, well, that's also on one hand still very traditional. It's very, I don't know how to really say, but it's more... It's
like
still,
fashion?
Yeah.
Like we're super competitive.
It's exactly,
Yeah.
it's like super, super competitive too. So I just needed like a full-time job, but there were actually like some steps in between. So I was working in fashion for good, and then I did my internship also at the same time back then. First at Vogue magazine, which was in
Amazing. It sounds amazing.
in Amsterdam.
Wow.
And I literally, it was an online editorial internship. So it was writing articles.
That sounds like fun.
It was like writing articles, like a lot of like writing, and like I was asked like to, to write about like sustainable fashion, for example. But I didn't really knew much about it, right? Like I was not an expert in sustainable fashion. I only had the experience like through the TV show, and of course my experience at Fashion for Good, and of course my own interest and my willingness to contribute to a more sustainable industry.
Did you write in Dutch or in English?
No, I was in Dutch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I ended up getting this internship at Vogue magazine, and it was really, really fun. So I applied, not online, didn't apply through sending an email, but I went to the office in one of my own designs. So one of the dresses that I made in Indonesia, I had my own dress on, and then I had a balloon with my CV on it.
Like a piece of paper or?
Yeah, literally.
On the balloon,
Yeah,
okay.
I went to a special print shop. I like printed everything on like this like transparent paper. Like I thought it looked nice.
Yeah,
And then I had
wow.
I have my CV, and I had my little business card on it. And then I had a balloon, a golden balloon. And I just brought it to their office. And so I didn't know anyone. So I literally arrived at their building, and with the balloon, and I just asked the front desk, like, hey, where is the Vogue office? And then they were like, oh yeah, 6th floor, you can go up. I was like, okay, perfectly fine. So I just entered their office, and of course I didn't want to be rude or anything, so I just walked to like the front office. I was like, hey, can you give this to anyone that's hiring interns? And then I got a phone call the next day. It was really cool.
That is such a good way of marketing yourself. Did anyone get to see your dress?
I don't know. I can't remember. But what I do remember is like sitting on a bike. It was a really sunny day in Amsterdam. It was like I was like biking, and
With the balloon.
and then I also went to other offices. So I just made a whole list of like 10 brands that I wanted to work for, like maybe Victor and Rolf, Vogue, all of those like bigger names. Also, I went to this other like Amsterdam designer, and their feedback, and of course, was like, never do this again anymore.
Oh.
Yeah, never like come into my office, and like it was too much. Yeah, so you also get those responses by being
Bold.
Yeah, like a bit more, going beyond and above and beyond.
Yeah.
Instead of just sending an email. It can also, come with some kind of...
Reward.
Yeah, reward, yeah.
Did you get just one interview or more with this tactic?
No, I only got the Vogue interview.
But it's still Vogue.
Yeah.
It's still a win.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, so I ended up doing an internship there at Vogue magazine. And what I learned here was that writing is also not for me.
It's not customer facing. It's not people oriented.
It's again sitting behind the laptop. You have to write an article in 30 minutes, which is totally like okay, but I just didn't get it. I just could not do anything. Like I was sitting behind the laptop. It took me already half an hour to do the research about the topic. Let's say it was sustainable fashion, and then the half an hour was already over. So yeah.
Was it tight deadlines to make?
Tight deadlines. Also, grammar is not, my biggest point, right? Like, I mean, I'm okay with grammar, but I'm not by any means like smart or, super good at it. I just need time. Like I needed, if I want to do something good, I just need time, right? Like give me a day or something at least, and that then I can. But what I learned is that here again, I was not working for my natural talents. So then Vogue happened. And I think then around COVID hit, and then I was literally sitting at home and was like, okay, I need a full-time job. And then I kind of just learned more about UX, UI design. I don't know how or when it happened.
Yeah.
I think also it was like, I mean, at one point, like after my experiences in fashion, I was like, okay, maybe this is, you know, like maybe UX, UI design, I can make a living out of it. So I was at home with my laptop and I just started to experiment with UX, UI design. I just like downloaded like this whole bunch of programs, and I just watched a lot of YouTube videos. I was literally all doing this by myself. And then I met a friend who in Amsterdam who had his own company, and he needed some assistance with like their app design. And then I just like helped them out a bit with like some of the designs that they were doing. And then I had this kind of like mini portfolio, and then I applied for some internships in UX, UI design. And then I ended up getting an internship in UX, UI design in Amsterdam for an early stage startup, AI, tech, fashion related too. They make AI generated models for like for like brands across the Netherlands, I guess. So I was there I was supposed to be there for 6 months. But again, I experienced that UX, UI design was not for me. Because it was just, it's very, again, like...
Behind the screen, sorry.
Yes. Behind the screen, you have to, again, deliver. And I could not deliver in that sense because I needed to redesign their website.
Whoa.
And of course, like there are like many factors here, right? It was not just me delivering. It was also, you know, being set up for success. Are you guided by the right people, etc.? And I think all of that was not there. But what I did learn was, again, people. Like I knew everybody in the team. I was like really close. Like, you know, like I was really engaged with the whole team. And especially since it was a younger startup in that sense, I felt like...
Must have been fun.
Yeah, it was like really fun. But I was there more for the people and I just enjoyed being there. But I would say I was not recognized by people for my phenomenal work I was doing. I was recognized by people because, oh, hey, Sophie's nice, right? Like
the energy you give.
The energy, like she's like good with people or whatever. Like I ended up leaving earlier or it was like, so, and then I was at a phase in my life where it's like, okay, marketing didn't work out. Fashion industry was fun, learned a lot, but also not really in line with my natural talents. UX, UI design is not as people focused as I thought it would be. I was like kind of stuck. It's like, okay, what am I gonna do next? And then it was my brother who was like, he was like a bit, Sophie, if you continue your life like this, you will never find a job or you will never be able to, you know, make a living just by yourself. And it, like first I was like, no, like what do you mean? Like, right? Like I was kind of a bit resistant about it because I was like, no, I want to do this. Like I want to do marketing. I want to do design. I want to, but then just by talking to him, and he really, really, really helped me. Like we had a really good talk, and he was like, okay, Sophie, just, you know, from brother to sister, you know, like, how are you feeling? I was like, yeah, like, honestly, I feel drained. I feel lost. I don't know where I want to go. So he set me up with a friend of him, and we did a whole workshop around, like, qualities where you're good at. So a career coach.
I was going to say.
A career coach.
Nice.
Yeah, so we really went through everything. So what are your energy gainers? What are your energy drainers? What is it that you're naturally, you know, like good at, etc. So it was a whole session, we did a whole workshop around it too. And then by the end of our like sessions, we had a whole list of competencies and jobs that would match.
What was the list? Do you remember?
The list was, from what I remember, was, of course, recruitment. I think it was also PR. It was something with events or being a personal assistant. So more kind of those kind of jobs. I would say like energy gainers was definitely like on top of the list. Was people again, like you know, talking to people, organizing. And then, I think all of that really made sense. So I talked to my brother, did the whole path with a career coach. And just also what I learned in this period, for example, if you're, let's say you're also just graduating school right now and you really want to focus on the next step, like what I would highly recommend to like younger generation or like people maybe listening to this podcast too, is ask your environment where they think you're really good at. So ask your mom, ask your dad, ask your sibling, like, right? Like, because they know you like nobody else.
Even like university, you know,
Yes.
how do you call them? Like, they're not friends, they're not colleagues, other students.
Yeah.
In your projects, for example, because you've worked together so intensely.
Yeah.
They will know your strengths.
Yeah.
And they're not so, you know, your parents sometimes say, oh, you're amazing at this and this. They kind of inflate your skills to make you feel better about yourself. But I feel like other students would be more cutthroat about telling you what you're good at and what you're not good at. So that could be a good practice.
100%. And then you just basically try to match those, like this feedback with what's like what kind of jobs are out there right now that match those skills. Because once you start working, as I said before, with your natural talents, then things will go more easy. And that's what I experienced too, in that sense. Like when I was doing all of the other jobs, I felt like I was working twice as hard.
Yeah.
And I was like working, and like always, you know, like until late night, like figuring out how the design program works. And but then once that moment hit, you're like doing something in line with your natural talents, things will go more easy, honestly.
Yeah, it feels more effortless.
Yes. But if you're like feeling a bit lost in that sense, which I feel like a lot of people are, and it's not something that's very commonly talked about, I feel like we can really be more open towards, you know, like, hey, I feel lost. Can you help me? Hey, I want to learn about XYZ. Can you help me? I think that's really, really something we should embrace more, especially to like a younger generation.
Yeah. So even seeking a mentor, for example, in the industry.
Yes, seeking a mentor. But again, like be very open about, hey, I feel lost. Can you help me? Or hey, can we do, like a lot of people don't know how to do it, like how to get from A to B. So that's why if you ask for help, this other person can help you to really make those steps and guide you like along the way. So for me, it was my brother, but if you're like a student and you're having the same experience, you can go to a career coach or somebody you just really trust.
Yeah.
And somebody you feel like that person knows you well, that can really help you. I think that's gonna help a lot of people.
Absolutely. And even your parents, because they probably work somewhere, can just ask around, and then their son or daughter or cousin does that profession and they can set you up. So it's the power of networking, right?
Yeah.
As well. But I guess it's young people just don't know how to do that, or they're not told how to do that. So just going out and seeking a mentor sounds impossible, unless you do what you did and go into Vogue or you know, companies with a balloon and just selling yourself, and that sounds terrifying. And then there's a whole world of LinkedIn that's where you reached out to me as well. And this is how we met, and that's how we're talking today in the podcast. So it just shows, doesn't it, that when you put yourself out there, if you're vulnerable and just say, hey, I don't know everything.
Yeah.
I'm looking to get advice from you. Do you have time of day for me?
Yeah.
It just shows how far that can go. But talk us through about that then. So we'll go back to your story and talk about recruitment, but I think it's important to touch base on your networking experience on LinkedIn as a new professional within the recruitment industry. So the message you sent me, I thought was so heartfelt, so honest. It did catch my attention. But you've told me before, right, about experiences with other people who don't necessarily receive it the same way.
Yeah, so I reached out and I basically asked you the same thing, like, hey, you have a lot of experience in talent acquisition. Would you be able, to walk me through your journey? Can we have a coffee? So just really, yeah, just, I'm coming from a place where I want to learn. I don't have any other intentions than just to talk about talent acquisition, where you have way more experience about, and I'm just really curious, hey, how does it work? How does sourcing work? How do you do closing calls, or just more in general, how did you went from A to B in your own career? So I just reached out to a bunch of people on LinkedIn, just send those messages, and that either work for a fast scale up or a bit more, established, bigger tech company. And what I figured is, just by sending those messages, either people don't respond, or they respond hey, what's the intention behind this message? If there is something else behind my message or something, so they would question that part. In the sense of okay, do you want information? I was no, I just want to learn, right? I just want to learn more about your day-to-day. And the other side is that people were really enthusiastic, like you, or other people, they were okay, cool, when are you free? When are you available? So I also had the most amazing people that I met through this approach, or the most amazing talks, and so it was really, really cool.
And that's then handling rejections, right? Because you're putting yourself out there, you're messaging strangers, and you're being genuine. You're not trying to get, you're not like a recruiter working in an agency trying to get a job out of someone. Or I think LinkedIn is so tainted now because of people having these experiences, even myself, where someone's trying to be genuine. I actually had once someone apply for a talent acquisition job within my team. And when I called that person, they were trying to get that job out of me as an agency. Yeah. So they started talking about their fees and, we can help you with XYZ. And on the call, I just felt really cheated, I felt like it wasn't genuine, because I actually wanted to interview this person, So I think, the job market and LinkedIn in general has made, talent acquisition managers and recruiters in general be more wary and suspicious about messages from strangers. But I could feel from your message it had sentiment, and you were coming from a curious place. But talking about maybe a person newly in the industry, new to LinkedIn, with regards to rejection, so people not responding or questioning you, how did that make you feel? Because I think that's why people don't do it in the first place, because they're afraid of what happens.
Yeah. I think learning how to deal with rejections is, in general in life, the best skill you can have. Don't take it personally. And that's something that I'm still learning, because, I can take things very, very personally, very, very easily. But I think, first of all, so don't take it personally. The second thing that I questioned was, what are those people doing? We are all in HR. We should supposed to, be on LinkedIn. It's part of your job, right? To respond to messages.
Be on the same team.
Yeah.
It's tough, because I get messages like yours often, and not just from people in the industry, also people who just moved here, or they've been laid off, or they have a circumstance where they need to find a job and they want support and help. And I've even reached out to career coaches to understand how they went from employment to entrepreneurship, you know, be more on the candidate side, because that might be something I want to explore in the future. But I want to test the water first, right? And I was seeking a mentor, and the amount of people that tried to charge me for their time, I get it's their profession, but again, we're in the same industry. It would have been nice to just grab a coffee and just not even understand the scope of your work or your secrets on how you coach people, more about the journey to entrepreneurship. Is it tough? Do you recommend me doing it? So I've experienced it myself as a professional with nearly a decade's experience in recruitment. And are you in the higher Slack group, right?
Yes. Yes.
So it's a Slack group where recruitment professionals join together. There's 11,000 plus people in that from corporate and agency. Even there's a disconnect. There's not a mandatory rule. I think there should be rules, for example, with these kind of groups where people have to reply. Not everyone, but you have to at least engage in some way, because it's very quiet. And I see people on the community section asking a lot of questions, just guidance about, oh, I have a recruiter friend, they need a job. Does anyone have any openings? And it's crickets. Or, oh, I'm setting up a recruitment process structure within a startup. Does anyone have a guidance as to where I can find such a process online, or are there PDFs already made? Crickets. So like you said, there's a disconnect between us being people persons. So we're good with the candidate journey and talking to the candidates and getting them jobs. But what about each other? You know, have you been to many recruitment events, like face to face?
No.
You haven't?
No.
In the, how many years experience do you have now in recruitment?
Well, it was 2.5 years. Yeah, around 3 years now, I think.
3 years?
Yeah.
And you haven't been invited to anything, or?
No, not really. No, not.
Oh.
I know. Well, not like by, let's say, companies, but it's more maybe on my own, like the sourcing summit, for example, in Amsterdam. Yeah. But no, I really not have been attending a lot of events so far.
Yeah, and that should be something, because most of them are free, and that's how you meet like-minded individuals that have lots of experience or are even starting out in recruitment. And it's a perfect opportunity to speak with others, connect with them, get a mentor this way as well. But the fact that it's difficult to find, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I think even if I would reflect on my own journey, the fact that I have not had any much exposure, I think, to those events. I don't know, maybe it's me not searching in the right places, but I think that's really important, is that you go to those events too.
There's been a few where I've had really deep discussions. I've been at roundtables with people from huge companies, and we've discussed about relocations and really deep HR topics. And I really thought, oh, we're going to connect with each other. We're going to be friends. They might come on the podcast. Again, nothing, not even a acceptance of my connection request.
Wow.
So, and that's people I've met and spoken to for a couple of hours. So it's really interesting. It's really hit and miss, I find. And I think you have to just keep going and see. It's always the same people that tend to go to these events as well. So it's just familiar faces, keep on going to these events. And they do happen often, but how you find the events, so they do post it on LinkedIn, but how do you find it?
Yeah.
On LinkedIn, unless you're connected with absolutely everyone.
Yes. Or you happen to be working for the right companies that actually stand on those events or are part of those events.
Yeah.
But if you're not part of those companies, and if you're, let's say, a young graduate looking for a career to start in recruitment, and you don't have a job yet, and you're not part of those communities, you're literally stuck with your own laptop. Well, you have your LinkedIn and stuff, but again, that's also a real opportunity for for us. For example, really try to connect, really try to help people, try to be very open. We're having this talk right now.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really important, to have that attitude towards new people, or I think that's just really important.
I think it's going to make a lot of people realize their own their own demons, I think, if they have been in the situation where they've received unsolicited messages and they're like, go away, go away. I don't have time to mentor someone,
No.
or I don't have time to have a coffee, which
Yeah.
if you can schedule your calendar accordingly, you do.
Yes.
It's just you being resistant because your parents probably told you, like, don't speak to strangers, or you've been burnt before meeting random people on LinkedIn and it doesn't work out. But I'm such a sucker for people who reach out to me, and I just literally try and reply as much as I can, even though I've got a busy schedule, like I told you, I think at the beginning.
Yeah.
I've worked with students before. I've done workshops on resume writing and applying for jobs, and I connected with every single one. I helped them create their own LinkedIn profiles, and I was their first connection. I asked them to connect with each other. So if you're listening to this, you can connect with me and Sophie on LinkedIn. We're such open books. We want to get to know everyone and help everyone out.
It's so important. It's like our duty to have this, like this kind of talks, to share our own experiences, to help other people get from A to B.
Yeah.
And only already we are like one LinkedIn request away. And,
Yeah.
Just send a message and to really see how we can help.
Yeah. And this happens across all industries, I think, when people, I've had people say to me like, oh, I've tried all your methods. For example, they are a IT software engineer and they're trying to find an IT job in Amsterdam. And what's the route? You try and get referral. How do you do that? You find the IT manager of the company, and then they're just left on red. The connection request is not accepted. So you're stuck.
Yeah.
What do? You've applied for the job. You try and reach out to the person.
Yeah.
That must be really disheartening.
Yeah.
You don't, why would you want to carry on to do that?
Then I think what I did is like, okay, next.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next.
Yeah. Thank you. Next. Really.
Yeah.
Okay. This, right. Like you have to keep on going. Like you have to make your own funnel.
Yeah.
Is what my brother told me. Like, Sophie, like, okay. I was like, oh no, like this person like doesn't reply. It's like, okay, just make your own funnel. Like, okay, keep on going. Like, don't ever give up, because you will reach your goal and you will go from A to B, but only if you don't give up and like build your own funnel. The same for us. Like you have to keep on going, and rejection is part of life.
Yeah.
Don't take it personally.
Yeah. What does your brother do for work? I'm just curious because he sounds like he's a recruiter.
No.
Low-key.
No, he's not. He works, he's having his own company in San Francisco. And
wow.
Yeah, he built software for dentists' practices.
Wow.
So he's finding a solution on how, around the billing, like the financial billing of those practices. But he's really good with people, I must say that.
And he's technical? So he developed the app, or he outsourced it?
No, he's more, so he's doing it with one other guy, and he's more, the technical founder, and he's more the CEO of the company. So
he's a salesy.
Yeah, he does like all the outreach to all of like the practices. He does all of like the presentations. He travels across whole America to, expand like the network, and they're really successful. Like a lot of practices really want to work with the companies.
Yeah. I was a dentist assistant, so you're speaking, you're singing my heart song.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Okay.
Before recruitment, just before recruitment.
Wow. So you also made a switch.
Yes, absolutely. I was in the same boat as you, where I liked to work with people. I was a waitress, and then I worked in retail. I hated it because retail is people focused, but it's so repetitive. Like working in restaurants was a bit more physical. You're running around everywhere. You're working late nights. You're working as a team, and I loved that. It gave me energy, but again, the working hours sucked. Like you'd finish at 10, 11, 12, sometimes in the AM, like 3 a.m. Sometimes I'd finish. It just wasn't sustainable in the long term, and also the salaries. So then I moved on to dentistry. So again, I pivoted as much as you, I think. I really had like 3 or 4 professions before I went into recruitment. And then a previous guest, Amy, who has been in recruitment longer than me. I met her because...
I think I saw that one.
Did you see that one? She influenced me.
Yeah.
Again, she was kind of like a mentor and influenced me into the industry. And again, I was like, I didn't know that was a job. Getting people jobs, that must be so rewarding. And getting an internship, etc., and then just sticking to it, because recruitment is tough. There are real lows in recruitment where you think, what the fuck am I doing? I might as well just do something easier, because even the candidate rejection during the process sucks. It really sucks. Or the hiring manager, you know, sometimes you work with really tough hiring managers.
Yes.
And you're like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Why am I here in the first place?
Yeah,
And then you have to think back to your ethos. It's
Yeah.
all about the people. It's all about service. It's all about helping others.
Yes, yes. And then like even sometimes like the interaction between hiring managers, or you know, like all of that is also, you have to navigate yourself through, but also rejecting, like, for example, interns, or that's something that's really, really hard sometimes too. Because like you want to give them, like, right, they're young, they're super eager to learn, you want to give them the opportunity, but then it's just, yeah, that's also part of the job, that you need to learn how to do those rejection calls.
Oh, I hate it. And also, if you get too many good applicants, what's the reason? You have one position. You wish you could give everyone a job, but unfortunately the company doesn't have enough space or budget to do that. So that's also, I hate doing that. It's heartbreaking. I still hate it. 9 years on. It doesn't get easier. You just have to deal with it better. But talking about interns, if you want to talk about your new opportunities, so tell us more about that.
Well, I just finished my first week as an university talent coordinator, and it has been really, really good so far. Yeah, I'm really, really enjoying it. Yeah.
And before you were at?
Just Takeaway as a recruitment coordinator as well. So I was there for 2.5 years. And what I like to what I said before, it's once I started to apply for recruitment roles, I started landing offers since 2 years, right?
Wow.
Like, of course, I did like internships and stuff, which is also a good CV builder, but I never got an offer for like a full-time job. And the moment I started to apply for like recruitment, like coordination roles, I got 2 offers, for example, one from an agency and one from Just Takeaway. And you know, then there was a flow, and it all started to flow. So again, building with your natural strength, or focusing on your natural strength, will really lead to output.
Yeah, because I can imagine you attending the interviews, hearing about the job and the company, it would have given you even more energy. You would have been very excited and eager in the interview. So I believe in energy, right? Even in interviews, if they're virtual or physical, you can just feel if someone wants the job. So you probably just naturally sold yourself even more because it aligned with your skills.
Yeah.
And people could see that.
100%. And I think it's also because at one point you just want to be your authentic self.
Yeah.
And your most authentic, energetic self. And just by going through all of those experiences in combination with like the coach who really helped me to understand myself better, I really knew that this direction was the right, like the best one for me.
Yeah.
And there's nothing else I would want to do other than recruitment or talent acquisition, because I just know by going through all of this that this is my path, at least for now, right? Like it's like leading towards something, or it's like leading to something very exciting.
Yeah.
If you don't have the money, and you don't have the money to spend on a coach, you can also just go to your direct family members or to your friends, but just have those conversations. It doesn't have to be a professional coach, as long as you get to understand what you're naturally good at. Like, what are your strengths? Like, is it you like talking, or you like math, or you like numbers versus writing, right? Like, just make it as specific as possible.
Yeah.
Really. And I think, again, like, is it friends, family, whoever you trust, and make it as specific as possible, and then just line those competencies with what's out there in terms of jobs. And again, that's something you can do with a
ChatGPT.
Or, you know, there's just so much, but make it specific, make it as specific as possible. And And I think it doesn't have to cost a lot of money if you don't have the money.
Yeah.
Of course, if you have the money, spend it on a professional. But if you don't have it, then make a start. Don't sit still. Go out there. Go invite people on LinkedIn. Hey, what are you doing as a recruiter? Can you tell me more about it? Hey, what are you doing as a marketing assistant? Can you do you want to hop on a call? Just, there's so much out there for free that you can already do just by sitting behind your laptop. Even if that means that you will be rejected for 600 times. There was so much more you can do. You just have to literally go to a print shop, print your CV
on a balloon,
and then bring it to the office, right? Like, you have to run the extra mile, but you have to do it yourself. And that means that you will fall, that you will get rejected, that you will hear the feedback, hey, I actually don't think you should ever do that again. Or, right? But that's okay. Like, just believe in yourself and believe in the fact that you will find your career path at one point.
Yeah.
And once you found it, you will be in a better place. You will have the money. You will have a career path that hopefully, like, you can really grow in and you can get some satisfaction out of. And, and then with that satisfaction, you can help others. So, there is really out there.
We can build our own community. Me and you, Sophie, will make our own Slack group.
For people
to join.
Yeah, especially in Amsterdam, like specifically focus on, let's say, Amsterdam.
Yeah.
I think there's so much we can do.
Yeah.
And we can share, and especially, that we're both working right now and we have more resources available than when we were sitting behind the laptop.
Yeah.
Not, searching for like a full-time.
Especially 10 years ago, even.
Yeah.
We had to literally manually apply on Indeed, on Monsterboard, on LinkedIn Jobs. There was just so much manual work. Going into places, handing out your CV, printed out to people in stores, in restaurants, in offices even. Some people did that. So it's easier now for sure, but everyone's doing it. So there's even more people to compete with. I think there's also a big stigma that, for example, if I followed your advice and when I was younger, I liked drawing so much and storytelling and talking to people. So if I wrote these things down, you really think to yourself, okay, what's a job that you can do? And the automatic ones is storytelling, writing books. And I thought, I don't want to write books or something. I don't want to be an author. Drawing, being a painter. I was like, that doesn't pay my bills. I can't imagine, unless I'm like Van Gogh or someone. I can't imagine being very successful at that. And you have to put so much time and effort and go to exhibitions and put yourself out there to be famous. And sometimes you have to even die to be a famous painter. And then speaking to people, you think, what kind of job, like, what? Do I become an interviewer? Speaking to people, how can that be a profession? So I think that's where people get lost sometimes, that their hobbies and what they're interested in can't be professions. So they go to the route of, okay, maybe I study law and I become a lawyer, that pays my bills. I study engineering, I go into IT, but that's not what they love. So I think there's a whole stigma of you should work to pay your bills and not do what you love and what gives you energy.
Looking back, what would you have choose? Like, if you love drawing, if you love talking to people?
I would do exactly this. I think all the failures, all of the mistakes, trying out all the different professions. When I was in dentistry, I was studying to be like a professional nurse, because you can go in without qualifications. As you start out, that's how I got the job, which sounds crazy because you're handling sharp tools, you're sedating people sometimes, so you just get taught to do that, but you're learning a qualification whilst you're on the job, if that makes sense. And I really thought, okay, I'm going to become a hygienist. I'm going to charge like 95 euros an hour. I can do this job anywhere because it's a highly skilled migrant position. I was thinking about moving to like Canada or Australia to be a hygienist, to clean people's teeth for the rest of my life. But then I thought, I was getting a lot of panic attacks actually as a dentist assistant because of the environment. So I tried 3 different practices in different locations because I thought, okay, maybe it's the first practice. Everyone's toxic. Let's move to another one. It's the same. It was because it was in the UK, it was the peer pressure from do you know the NHS, the free, it's a free healthcare service, but the dentists and the assistants needed to hit KPIs almost every day for the people to get it for free. There's a whole system. So it's really high pressure. I was never taking breaks. I was never taking lunch.
Wow.
I was working about 3 hours overtime before and after my shift and always on my feet. I never had breaks. And I was being paid 800 gross a month. That didn't pay bills. That didn't pay my lifestyle, or I couldn't even go on vacation. I felt like I had so much pressure that I was like, is it worth it? But I had to do that experience in order to understand, again, like you, what did I enjoy? So I don't regret my path. I think I wouldn't be here. And the podcast, I love talking to people, and I'm not an expert. I'm interviewing people because we need to share knowledge, like you said, and that's the entire purpose of the podcast. So that's why I like talking to people and everything. So I'm in recruitment. I do the podcast. Drawing is just a hobby for now. I'll see what I can do with that, how I can intertwine that in the future. I did ask ChatGPT how I can combine it, and it offered me suggestions like graphic designing, infographics. It's okay. Graphic designing, infographics for LinkedIn, for example, to portray the message you want to in a fun, like a comic way almost. And I was like, okay, so I need to learn graphic design again. And this time, honestly, when do I have the time to do that? If I'm editing the podcast, etc., and recruiting. And I also do the career coaching on the side as well for free for now, because I'm not certified yet. But that's, again, helping people with the knowledge, sharing knowledge, and then also the speaking at universities and companies. Again, giving back, speaking, answering questions gives me energy. So I wouldn't have known, and I don't have a university degree.
Okay.
I was meant to go to Florence as well. I got accepted to the Florence University to do Italian English translation. And again, at that point, I thought, I'm going to be a translator. I'm going to work for the government. I'm going to work 15 days a year, because I met with my best friend's mom's best friend who did the exact same job. She was a translator for the government. And she was like earning bucks. She was 15 days a year, and she could go to the Maldives and everything. And she had such a flexible schedule, but she was just translating for 15 days straight a year and earning like 100,000 or something like that. So I was like, fuck it. That's what I want to do. It sounds easy. I can speak Italian. I can speak English. But again, it's not what I'm doing now. And I don't regret having all these branches to explore, because I feel like you don't know unless you try, really, because you can fantasize about a marketing job or a fashion design job. Like, people would have killed to have been in your shoes, but until you do it and discover yourself, you don't know.
Plus, I feel like it will all, once you are in the right environment, people will see all of your diverse experiences as something that's so valuable that you can bring to the table. Yeah. Like you, me, like, just by going through all of those diverse experiences, we can add so much more to the table than somebody that that, let's say, followed the whole traditional journey of like, oh, I went to study HR, then I did like this internship at like this HR firm. You know, like, I feel like that's also something why maybe, you know, like, we want to give back more, because we have been in their shoes. We know how it is. So
yeah, I think it's just in our DNA, in our blood, to just maybe give back. And I think if you did, I mean, there's nothing wrong with going the traditional route of studying HR or business and then going into recruitment. No, not at all. But I've noticed going into companies, the mindset difference in the team, in the same team, with someone who followed a traditional path and does everything correctly in the box, versus someone like me who is really diverse and just tries different ways to fix the issue. You know, it's crazy.
Exactly. And I really feel and think that's honestly because we have this broader experience, and like we had to fix things in the past. Like, you had to go beyond, left, right, under, over to get it done.
Yeah. Survival almost.
Exactly.
To
Like,
get shit done.
yeah. Just, and also never give up. Like, you have to push through, right? And
Absolutely.
And I think that's something that is a mindset. That is something that cannot be taught. Like, it needs to be part of you, or it will be taught by your experiences that you go through. Like, for example, you can reach out to people on LinkedIn and,
Like me and Sophie.
nobody responds to my LinkedIn messages, I'm gonna give up, right? Like, that's so easy to do that, but no, like, you have to put through.
Yeah.
You have to keep on going.
And if you just hide in your bedroom and
Yeah.
scroll on TikTok, how can anyone find you?
No.
If you want to work for LVMH, for example, or another big company,
Yeah.
how on earth can they find Daisy sitting in her bedroom at university, scrolling on TikTok or going on Just Eat to order some food? Like, you
Yeah.
need to put yourself out there. You need to be
Exactly.
vulnerable. But
Yes.
I think your story will really encourage people and inspire them. They will just listen to this and live through you. So I think it will really encourage people. But on an ending note, Sophie, I don't want to end this conversation. We could go on. I was thinking of other topics to talk about. For example, like job hopping.
Yeah.
Oh God, that could be a whole, like, I need to invite you again to talk about
Job
that
hopping.
whole segment. On an ending note, so if it's been a pleasure to speak with you, if I wanted your advice or to join your new Slack community for recruiters, how can I reach out to you?
Definitely on LinkedIn. Sophie Maria Pelle, and you will find me.
I'll put it down here. I'll put it in the description box.
Yes. Yeah, very happy to connect, really. Any questions about talent acquisition, how to move from A to B. Really, I'm really, really happy to give back to what I've been through myself and to really help you in making your next step.
So, like I said, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much.